Hi, I'm Steve. I'm going to do a couple of videos, a series of videos showing you how to remove an old ceramic tile floor in a house. This floor was put down probably 10 years ago. At the time it was in vogue, but not really now. Going to replace these tiles with new ceramic tiles, something that looks a little bit nicer. And through a series of videos I'm going to show you, first of all, how to remove the floor, how to prepare the floor for a new ceramic tile floor, install the new ceramic tile floor, and finish it off so it looks new and updated. So stay with me, and there's going to be a series of videos showing you exactly how to do that. Before we get started with our project, it's important to have the right tools and safety equipment to ensure that you do the job properly and safely. The first thing that you need to have is a good dust mask. You need to have a dust mask, obviously, because you're going to be chipping up the tiles and creating a lot of dust. You also probably want to use Visqueen or plastic to close off maybe the door opening or some of the other areas so the dust won't go out into other parts of the house. The next thing that you really need that's important is safety glasses. You don't want any of these chips from the ceramic tiles to come up and get in your eye and cause a lot of problems. Good work gloves are very important. Keep your hands safe, so be sure you have that. What you need is to remove the tiles. There's many different ways to do it, but what I'm going to start with is a good mason's chisel. This will be to chisel up the tiles. You could use power tools. There's other ways depending on the size of the room, different ways of doing it. But I'm going to start out with this and see if it works well for me. Good hammer, obviously, for the chisel. And what I have here is a pry bar, because in my particular case here, I'm going to have to be removing some of the existing molding along the floor. This also may be helpful in removing some of the tiles. So it's very important that you start out with the right tools and the right safety equipment so the job is done properly and safely. In doing your tile removal project, you're probably going to have to enlist the help of someone to help you remove appliances like your oven and stove that you have, and probably your refrigerator. These are things that are going to have to be removed, obviously, out of the area, because you have tiles that have to be removed from underneath these appliances, and you're going to have to replace the tiles and then replace the appliances. So you're going to need some help to get these out of the area where you're doing the work. The first thing that you want to do before starting the project is remove any thing that's along the floor. In this case, I have a heat register that I have to remove before I start to remove the tiles, and we're also going to remove the molding along the floor. So that's the first thing that you do in the preparation. The next thing that you want to do to be able to prepare the floor to be removed is you have to remove the molding that's along the floor. In this particular case, it's molding that has paint along the edge. So one of the things that I want to do first is I'm going to take this knife and I'm going to score along the edge, so when I pull the molding off, it doesn't pull off the paper or do more damage to the drywall, so we don't have to do additional repairs after we get this off and put it back together. So the first thing you want to do is score along the top of it and break the paint seal. Now that we've hopefully broken the seal along the top, we'll try to start gently prying the molding away from the wall without trying to do damage to the drywall. You can see by being very careful that when I made this cut along the top of the molding and pulled off the molding, that it did not destroy or do a lot of damage to the drywall right here. The good thing about that is that when you go to put your new molding on after you're done with the floor, you'll have less repair, less damage, and hopefully the new molding that you put on will actually cover up this score and you won't have to do any repair to it. So that's a good tip in pulling off old molding. Now that we've had the floor molding removed, it's time to move to the next step, and that's the tile removal. Okay, as I said earlier, we're going to start removing the tiles, but safety first. Safety goggles. I've got knee pads on if you're going to do a lot of kneeling. You want your dust mask. So be sure that you have all this equipment on before you get started. So I'm going to go ahead and put the mask on and get started with removing the tiles. Now that we have all the ceramic tile removed from the floor, we've unfortunately run into a problem. As you can see, that this is the concrete slab floor, and previous to putting the tile on the floor, someone put the tiles over old vinyl sheet flooring. So now we have a problem because some of this is coming off and some of it isn't. Some of it stick down to the floor pretty strong. So what we're going to have to do is take off everything that's loose so you don't have a problem, and what we'll do is use a floor leveler or something to smooth it over, because the important thing obviously is when you put the new tiles down that you have a smooth floor. The other option is, and it's a lot more time consuming, is use some sort of a chisel device or some sort of a tile floor remover and take all the vinyl tile off the floor so you have a smooth concrete floor before you get started. One thing that you need to be concerned about, if the floor is pretty old, some of this old vinyl may actually have asbestos in it, so that's something to be concerned about. Another reason to make sure that it's properly removed and properly contained. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove anything that's loose, all the old vinyl that's loose, and the stuff that is pretty well stuck down to the floor. I'm actually going to leave it there, and I'm going to put a floor leveler over it so we have one continuous smooth floor. There are many ways to approach this. This is just the particular way that I'm going to do it, and hopefully on your floor you don't have a vinyl sheet flooring down underneath the tiles when you remove it, because it is important to get as much of this off as you can. Another thing that I want to point out to you, in my particular case here, I do have a slab concrete floor underneath where the tiles came off and the new tiles are going to go in. Your particular case, you may not. You may actually have a plywood subfloor down in your kitchen or the room that you're removing the tiles from. And when you put the new tiles back down, you do not want to put new tiles on top of a plywood floor, or any kind of wood. What you want to do is, when you're prepping the floor for putting the new tiles in, you want to make sure that you put a concrete backer board down on the floor. It's very important that you do that, because you want the new tiles and the new adhesive obviously to stick to the concrete backer board or the fiber backer board that you're putting down, because you don't want to put it directly onto the wood. Very important, because if you put it directly onto the wood, you'll find that sooner or later the floor is going to start cracking. So keep that in mind if you actually have a wood subfloor where you're going to put the new tiles back on.